2024 is officially over. Hello everybody, my name is Jesse and welcome to my channel. We are officially in the new year. Welcome to my first video of 2025. 2024 was a pretty solid year for movies, I thought. I don't think it was quite as good as like 2023, for example, was a phenomenal year. I think this year was definitely weaker, but there was still a lot of fantastic films. So today, I'm going to give you my top 10 favorite movies of 2024. Before we do get into my official top 10, I do have some honorable mentions that I want to just rattle off real quick. In no particular order, those are Gladiator 2, Twisters, If or Imaginary Friends, and Long Legs. I loved all of those films. I considered putting some of them in my top 10. They just didn't quite make the cut, but I had to mention them real quick because I did love all of them. So here we go. Starting at number 10, I have Alien Romulus. I love the Alien franchise. Yes, there are definitely some very weak ones in this franchise, but all in all, I love most of the movies in this franchise. I was excited when they announced they were making another one. Fede Alvarez that did The Evil Dead and Don't Breathe was directing. That made me excited. This was one of my most anticipated movies of the summer of 2024, and I think it delivered. I think Fede Alvarez was able to combine some of the best elements from both Alien and Aliens. He was able to kind of combine the action with the horror very well, which I loved and I expected from him. Being a horror director, he was able to bring those horror elements very well, and it just added to the atmosphere of this film in the best way. I think stylistically, this is one of the best Alien movies. It looks fantastic. All the visual effects are insane, and it's just one that you need to watch in a super dark room, all of the lights off, and you'll have a great time with it. The action is amazing. I think the third act gets a little weird, and I didn't love all the stuff that they did there. But all in all, this was a fantastic addition to this franchise. At number 9, I have A Quiet Place Day One. This movie is one that I was very excited for, yes, but I also was just ever so slightly nervous because I love the first two A Quiet Place movies so much, and that's partly due to John Krasinski's direction and especially his acting in the first movie. I was worried that this movie was going to be a step down from that because I was going to miss that style that he had, and to an extent that is true, but I thought this was a very, very solid kind of origin story for this world, and I think Michael Sarnowski did the best that he could. I think he nailed it. I loved the story between the two characters. I can't remember their names at the moment, but played by Lupita Nyong'o and Joseph Quinn. Their chemistry was great. There's some fantastic moments between the two. The score is fantastic, and of course, this movie still keeps the tension and the horror elements that you want from this franchise. So I thought this was a really solid movie in this franchise. I think right now they're going 3 for 3, and I loved it. Number 8 is the most recent film on this list and one of my most anticipated movies of the year, Nosferatu. I love Robert Eggers. I've loved everything that he's done up to this point, so this had to be one of my most anticipated movies of the year, and it absolutely delivered. Eggers' direction throughout the entire movie is absolutely incredible. There is so much attention to detail put into every single aspect of this film. Just the overall creepy, eerie environment that this movie creates is amazing. Bill Skarsgård is terrifying as the titular character, Nosferatu, the vampire. The makeup and prosthetics on his character looked insane and were just really cool to look at. And all of the acting, the performances, Lily Rose Depp, Willem Dafoe, just everyone brought their A game with this film, and it is amazing. The cinematography and lighting, I loved. They really did a great job with kind of building up, showing the creature, showing Nosferatu. They played around with the lighting a lot with that and with his shadows. So you never really, they didn't focus too much on showing him physically. He really only had maybe 15 minutes of screen time in the film, and I think that added to the tension. I really liked how they did that. So I loved everything that Robert Eggers did with this movie. It's not quite my favorite from his, but it was very good and one of my favorites of the year by far. At number 7, I have Challengers. This was a movie that for the pretty much first half of the year, everybody was raving about it. Everybody was saying it's one of the best of the year. I was eventually able to see it on streaming a couple months ago, and I did absolutely love it. I don't think it's not quite as good as everybody was saying it was, but I did really enjoy it. I think Luca Guadagnino's direction was great. All of the acting was fantastic. The kind of relationship, the love triangle between the 3 leads was great. There was a lot of great tension, and the drama that they built was fantastic. And I loved all of the writing. I thought the writing was absolutely brilliant. There was so much that could be said in every scene without any words actually being spoken. Certain little things that they set up early in the film come into play later that were just great payoffs, and the cinematography was also fantastic. In the last 15 minutes are absolutely riveting. The score is electric and really just kind of has that upbeat feel. So I really did enjoy this movie. Number 6 for me is Conclave. This is the biggest surprise of the year for me by far. I went into it not really expecting a whole lot. I saw the trailers and I thought, oh, that looks interesting. And when I went and saw it, I was blown away by how genuinely thrilling it could be. I would never have thought a movie about trying to choose a new pope would be this engaging, this thrilling. And that is partly due to a couple of things. First off, the performances here are amazing. Ralph Fiennes gives probably one of my favorite performances I've ever seen from him. Yes, he should be nominated for an Oscar, but Stanley Tucci and John Lithgow are also great here, especially Stanley Tucci. I loved his character. Every actor are at the best of their game in this movie. They're all fantastic. Every line delivery and just the tension between all of the characters is great, and you just feel it the entire time. It's fantastic. The score here is also phenomenal, and just the idea of them all being stuck in this one location adds to that tension, and you're just on the edge of your seat waiting to find out what the end result of this whole thing is going to be. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. You'll be surprised, I promise. Number 5 for me is We Live in Time. Again, this was one of my most anticipated movies for the fall of 2024. I'm a sucker for romance movies, and the 2 leads, Andrew Garfield and Florence Pugh, that's all I needed to know, and I was hooked. And this movie blew me away. I loved it more than I even expected to. They build this story. You care about these characters so much. I love how they did the going back and forth between kind of different timelines, and the non-linear storytelling really worked for me. And that added to it a lot. There were certain things that they were able to set up, and when they finally came back, like near the end of the film, it really just added to the emotion. The score is great. Both actors give fantastic performances, and the ending of this movie absolutely broke me. It has stayed with me ever since I saw it. I love this movie. Number 4 for me is The Fall Guy, an action film directed by David Leitch, starring Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt, a Barbenheimer collab, if you will, and both of them are great in this film. This is just one of those movies that increases my appreciation for filmmaking even more, makes me want to be a filmmaker that much more. It makes me so excited to do it in the future, and just the overall environment of this movie is awesome. The music is all great. Ryan Gosling is as charismatic as ever, and just everything about this film is so fun to watch. The editing is great, And I love that David Leitch did a movie like this. He started his career in film as a stuntman, so I think he was the perfect director to do a project like this, and he nailed it. I love this movie. I think it's one of the most rewatchable and entertaining movies of the year. Number 3 for me is Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. One of the movies that you just had to see on the big screen. Anya Taylor-Joy and Chris Hemsworth both give career best performances. The movie is visually gorgeous to look at. All of the cinematography and the visual effects are awesome. And this might be a hot take, but I might prefer this movie over Mad Max Fury Road, simply because they delve more into the actual characters' stories. We actually learn about Furiosa in this movie, and for me, that's something that's very important. I like having character development, and I need to be able to care about the characters to really enjoy the movie and feel the stakes, and they did that very well with this movie. Specifically, I already mentioned him, but I loved Chris Hemsworth in this movie. He's playing a villain, which he's done a couple of times, but not really quite as often, and you can tell he has a blast playing this role. Just all of his crazy mannerisms and line deliveries are so entertaining to watch, so I really enjoyed this movie. Number 2, I have Deadpool and Wolverine, my second most anticipated movie of 2024. I love both of the Deadpool movies. Ryan Reynolds plays this role so freaking well, and the fact that they were finally going to introduce Deadpool into the MCU had me on the edge of my seat. I could not wait for this movie, and when it finally dropped, I was ecstatic. I loved this movie, and just everything about it. They did everything so well. The writing is incredible. The jokes all land. The action is incredible. All of the music choices are amazing. And just, it has all the humor and the action that you want from a Deadpool film. But at the same time, there is a lot of heart and a lot of emotion. Hugh Jackman specifically brings so much emotion to Wolverine's character in this movie, because he feels like he let down his Earth, his people. He had people that were depending on him, and he let them down. And he carries that burden throughout this entire film, and this is his kind of redemption arc throughout this movie, and I loved that. So everything about this movie I absolutely loved. It's become one of my favorite MCU movies. It's the movie that I watched the most this year, and just I will continue to watch it for years to come. But of course, coming in number 1 for me is Dune Part 2. I saw this film 3 times in theaters, also along with Deadpool and Wolverine. I saw that 3 times in theaters. But this is one of the few movies of my life that I've seen more than twice in the movie theater. Every single time I saw it in IMAX, and it was a visual treat every time. Denis Villeneuve is one of my favorite directors. I had full trust in him to pull this off and nail the second part of this story, and he absolutely did. Every aspect of this film is incredible. I love seeing Paul's arc throughout the movie to becoming the character that he's kind of meant to be. Just all of the visual effects, the CGI is amazing in this movie. All of the action is incredible. Hans Zimmer gives one of his best scores possibly ever. And I just love every single aspect of this movie, and I will definitely be, again, rewatching this for years to come, and it is by far my favorite movie of the year. It's just a true achievement in filmmaking, in my opinion, and there were several shots. Just the cinematography alone is amazing, and there were several shots throughout the entire film that had my jaw on the floor from beginning to end. So there you have it. Those are my top 10 favorite movies of 2024. What were yours? Let me know down in the comments below. Stay tuned for a lot of other videos coming very soon. Please subscribe to my channel. It would mean a lot. And until my next video, like this one and keep watching movies.